increased $200,000 or 57%. The original budget, or the current budget, is $350,000. That's being bumped up to $550,000, and that's just based on looking at the trends and looking at the legal matters that are going on. Best guesstimate of what that account would look like at the end of the year.
Does that mean that we can expect a $200,000 increase this year on corporate counsel?
The number is derived based on the actual to date, and then estimated now based on averages throughout the year.
Because what was it last year? We've had over $700,000 in attorney fees.
Last year, the actual expense on the report was $770,000. That includes corporate counsel and prosecutor services.
Correct. But what I'm trying to say is if we're expecting that $200,000 increase, we're looking at $900,000, possibly, because we're taking an estimate here. So we could be looking at $900,000 in attorney fees. So somewhere down the line here, we've got to get this under control, because we can't afford to watch these fees continue to grow at this rapid rate.
So may I, through a chair, may I clarify the $200,000 increase? The $200,000 increase is actually an increase from the current budget. The current budget is $550,000, so that would bring the estimated attorney fees. Sorry, the current budget is $350,000, so the estimated attorney fees for the year is estimated to be $550,000, which is about $200,000 less than the actual from last year.
But it's still high, though.
It's
a lot
higher
of
than
money for
budgeted.
attorney fees. That's a lot of money for attorney fees. And I'm just saying that we have to, hopefully the administration and the council, we have to find a way to try to hopefully get this under control to where some of these cases, and I understand the cases, what happens with cases in the courts, but we have to hopefully find a way that we don't spend long periods of time fighting some of these cases if we can find quick ways for settlement. Because otherwise, plus we don't know what's going to happen with the settlement portions, and then on top of this, if we continue to pay for the attorneys fighting these, then we could continue to see, you don't have any idea what it was approximately a year ago that we were paying in attorney fees, do you?
Well, through the chair, the report that we gave you guys gave you the last 2 years of actuals. Just like it's on the screen right now. So fiscal year 18, the total cost was just under $500,000. Fiscal year 19 was $770,000, and then this year we're budgeting $550,000.
So they're still up there. Okay. Yeah, it's just something I think that we better look at, because at any given time, we don't know if we're going to get hit with additional type of lawsuits that are going to just force this stuff even up higher, or look into ways to find faster settlements on some of these cases so we don't get this extended amounts of money being spent. Thank you.
Caroline? Caroline, I can't hear you that well.
Sorry, I couldn't hear
I
that.
couldn't either. Caroline, can you turn your volume up or something? I'm not hearing you that well.
Okay, go ahead. That's correct. For the current budget, year, we're going over the expenditures right now. Yes. Yeah, it's going to increase. But I believe what you're referring to, because you're looking at a decrease, what you're looking at is that probably the fiscal year 21 budget for Corporation Counsel, which is set at $350,000, which is a $200,000 decrease. So that's where you're probably referring to on that one, is for the fiscal year 21 budget. Right now, we're just talking about the fiscal year 20 budget.
So basically, we're budgeting, we were going to budget $350 like we did last year, and we're increasing it by $200 to
Yes,
$550.
and yes, the page 8 is actually talking about the fiscal year 21 budget, and we're just talking about fiscal year 20. If you want to refer to that document you have in front of you, it's page 3, where it talks about corporate counsel expenditures. No problem. Okay, so just kind of moving forward with the expenditures on the general fund side. Okay, so we also have 11.8% increase in the insurance risk management area, and again, that's related to increase in professional services and contractual services related to risk management. We have general administration going up about 22%, $91,000, and that's just a carryover of the implementation costs of the ERP system. Like I said, that was budgeted in last year, and it's just a carryover of that item. Other expenditure to note is that the DPW is expected to decrease $280,000 or 13.1%. $100,000 of that decrease is related to the Good to Great program cost, which is being reduced based on the funding. And then there's a $180,000 reduction related to the decrease in salt purchases. If you're aware, we do purchase our salt through DPW general fund, and then we allocate those costs to the Act 51 funds. And since it was a mild winter and there's some good inventory of salt, those expenditures are going to be well below what they have been in the past. So looking at the trend year to date and estimation from the department head, we have some good reduction there. So that'll help out the bottom line. Also, continuing on the expenditure side, we have increased the community development, and that's just a reallocation of a position, and that position was from the assessing department based on the assessing department changes. Planning department, there was a decrease of approximately 21%, and that's just a reclass of a position to customer assistance center for a clerk position, floating clerk position, and then a couple of smaller reductions in contractual services and professional service based on year-to-date trends. And then lastly, there is an increase of $514,000 to the transfers out, and that is related to transfers to other funds. And to go a little bit more into detail on that, we can turn to page on your detail items, detail reports. Go ahead and turn to page 47. And I'll bring it up on the screen too. Okay, so as you can see on page 47, for the fiscal year 20 projected budget, we had a $65,000 reduction in our transfer to the Brownfield Fund, and what that represents is the general fund portion of the debt related to Island Lakes. If you recall from prior budget meetings, Island Lakes debt is a Brownfield site. They're over by Allen and Goddard Road area, and that development just didn't come to fruition the way it should have been, but the city took out bonds to pay for it, and the revenue from that development is not enough to pay those bonds. So we have a portion of those bonds being paid for by water and sewer, paid for by DDA, and then the remainder has to be paid for by the general fund. So that $200,000 is the estimate this year for the general fund's allocation of that debt, because it is a general obligation debt. So if the Brownfield can't pay for it, it has to be paid from other sources or general funds. So that's what that represents. And then the other item on there is a $580,000 increase to transfer to the golf course fund. And what that represents is the department's estimate for the amounts that we had to transfer for the golf course fund for operations. It's similar to what has happened the last couple of years in that area. So we talked to the department. If you recall, we usually come to council last couple of years in June with this item, but since we went through this budget process, the department updated their numbers based on what they're expecting, and then also we took a reduction based on the COVID-19 situation. We took another 5% off the top to come up with the new estimate for the fund, and what it resulted in is approximately a $580,000 transfer from the general fund to the golf course fund. And if you recall, I got the numbers up on the screen, but if you recall, last year we had to transfer $600,000, and the year before that we had to transfer $400,000 to the golf course fund. So right, this year's estimated $580,000, And then when we talk about the 21 budget, they're expected 290,000, so.
I got a quick question. Now, this 580,000, was that figure before this COVID came about?
That's all in.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman.
Because I mean, if we budgeted 600 last year, and then we got this going on, so we're basically gonna have no spring activity at our golf courses at all. Is 580 a realistic number?
Mr. Chairman, we don't know. I mean,
Right.
just give you a candid answer.
Yeah.
We did our best to give you realistic projections. They're probably conservative. We believe that these estimates are enough. But to be totally honest with you, not knowing how far out this will go, it could change.
And I know it's, you know, it's still a lot up in the air right now. What if we were to be able to get some funding from the federal government or something, would we be able to use those funds for this situation as well? I mean, to cover the costs, so to speak.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, we have a meeting next week to go over the grant availability right now to see what is eligible and what is not eligible. All of these costs, all of these opportunities will be submitted as our request. You know, we will submit every potential lost revenue, every additional expense, every additional payroll dollar in hopes of trying to recover it. It's possible. At this point in time, we just don't have the answers. I wish I could give you a better answer, but it is
I
not clear.
understand.